Did you sign it? I did. You wanted freedom. I'm giving it to you. But you forgot one thing. I'm not stupid. What do you mean? I smiled, slowly pouring a glass of wine, my eyes cold as steel. You set fire to the home I once called happiness. Now you get to watch it burn. And don't you dare ask me for water. That was the moment I knew the game had truly begun. Vanessa, the once charming, confident woman who lived like the world owed her, was wrong. She thought divorce would be her easy win, the key to a luxurious life funded by me. But what she didn't know was that I had been waiting for this moment all along. Welcome to A Love Betrayed in the Ultimate Twist, when the cheater begs for forgiveness. A story filled with tension, raw emotion, and above all, a quiet but brutal revenge that will make anyone thinking of betrayal think twice. Before we begin, drop a comment below. What would you do if your wife did this to you? Would you forgive or let her face the consequences alone? A wife who strayed has initiated divorce proceedings, yet now pleads with me to halt the process. This is a tale of betrayal, shared on Infidelity by Ethan. From the very beginning, I recognized that my wife, Vanessa, possessed an undeniable flair for adventure. In the early days of our union, it was among the qualities I cherished most about her. She radiated joy, embraced spontaneity, and overflowed with vitality. She possessed a remarkable ability to transform even the simplest of moments into something extraordinary. A journey to the grocery store? In an instant, it transformed into an adventure. A languid Sunday spent in the comforts of home. She had a knack for crafting unforgettable moments, whether it was cranking up the music and twirling around the kitchen, or whisking me away on spontaneous road trips to catch the fading light of the sunset. Yet at some point in the journey, that thrill transformed. The significance of the small details had faded into the background. It transformed into a matter of opulence. Listen closely. A forthcoming, exhilarating adventure awaits. The woman who once nestled beside me on the couch, content with a bottle of wine and a classic film, began to roll her eyes at the mere mention of a tranquil evening at home. Initially, I brushed it off, convincing myself that perhaps she was merely experiencing a fleeting phase. Yet the late nights began to accumulate, the nebulous justifications, her fleeting glances at the phone, accompanied by a smile for messages she chose to keep to herself. It was on that night that the reality truly sank in. Upon returning home from a long day at work, I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. Yet a sense of relief enveloped me as I stepped into the serene embrace of our quiet abode. All I desired was to unwind, perhaps prepare a meal for us, and simply enjoy her company. Upon entering, I caught a glimpse of her in the hallway mirror, meticulously applying her lipstick. She had already donned her attire. A sleek black dress clings to every contour, heels that rendered her legs an enchanting vision of length. Diamond earrings shimmer softly beneath the gentle glow of the warm light. It had been some time since I last laid eyes on those earrings. "Are you heading out?" I inquired, casually discarding my jacket. She averted her gaze, completely disregarding my presence. "Indeed, I'm simply enjoying some drinks with the ladies." The clock caught my eye. 7:45 in the evening. Interestingly, this particular excuse had been echoing in my ears quite frequently of late. As I stepped into the kitchen, I swung open the fridge door and reached for a cold beer. I called out as nonchalantly as possible, "Which girls?" Stillness. A moment of doubt. Then her voice came out, slightly strained. "Nathan, does it truly hold significance?" That was the moment, that fleeting instant. The brief pause revealed all that I sought to understand. She was embarking on an adventure. She was gradually distancing herself from me, gently, softly, with grace. What could possibly be more disheartening? She had ceased all attempts at concealment. I rested against the counter, observing her from the kitchen doorway as she took a final glance at her reflection in the mirror. In her reflection, guilt was a stranger, without a moment's doubt, a woman resolute in her decisions, unwavering in her convictions. And that was the moment I crafted my own. I had no intention of battling for someone who had made up their mind to depart. 2 weeks later, she declared it to the world. On a Friday evening, she presented me with the envelope. She stood before me, wearing a smug, rehearsed expression, as if she had devoted countless hours to perfecting the delivery of her lines in front of a mirror. There existed neither hesitation nor a flicker of doubt. She yearned for this moment to belong to her, to seize the reins of control. Nathan, it seems we both understand that this situation is not yielding the desired results. I gazed at her in silence. Though I withheld the response she sought, it did little to deter her. In her mind, my silence was an invitation to press on. One finds oneself in a state of contemplation, pondering the essence of your being. Too boring, she remarked, exhaling as if she had been holding that breath for months. My life craves a spark of thrill. I yearned to break free from this sense of entrapment. I nearly chuckled, not out of amusement, but due to the sheer audacity of her belief that this was a display of power. As if she were presenting a monumental, heartfelt address destined to shatter my heart. Yet the reality was that she had already shifted her thoughts elsewhere. She had departed long before this moment arrived. She found this decision to be quite straightforward. It was merely the concluding step. I grasped the envelope from her hand and gently extracted the papers within. Documents for dissolution of marriage. Anticipated. As I turned the pages with deliberate care, my eyes roamed over the text, and in that moment, I discovered it. She was not merely departing from my life. She awaited the arrival of her payday, spousal support, a substantial monetary agreement. Vanessa had, quite literally, crafted a check that drew directly from my bank account. What's the most delightful aspect? It was evident that she had not even glanced at the prenup. I cast a fleeting glance in her direction before returning my focus to the document before me. She remained oblivious to the glimmer of mirth dancing in my gaze. In the early days of our marriage, the prenup seemed to hold little significance for her. Engrossed in the whirlwind of selecting wedding venues, floral arrangements, and designer invitations, she hardly paused to consider anything else. The memory of that precise moment when we discussed it lingers vividly in my mind. Darling, it's merely a precaution, I had explained to her. I have invested too much effort to not safeguard what I have created. Nathan, let's go. She had chuckled, scarcely paying attention. Divorce is simply not in our future. She perused the document briefly, affixed her signature, as if it were a mere formality, and returned it without uttering a single inquiry. And now as she stood before me, the weight of her overconfidence loomed, promising a regret that would eclipse all others in her life. I shut the papers, released a slow breath, and raised my gaze to meet hers. Very well. She fluttered her eyelashes. What is this? Are you seeking a divorce? Very well. I held her gaze steadily. I shall not contest your stance on the matter. In a fleeting instant, I caught the glimmer of astonishment in her gaze. It vanished in an instant, supplanted by a new sensation, satisfaction. Her lips formed a subtle smirk. She believed I was exhibiting passivity, feeble, vanquished. I set the papers down on the counter and offered a subtle nod. I will have my attorney review it thoroughly. Everything will be arranged perfectly. With a flick of her hair, Vanessa envisioned the riches she believed were hers for the taking. She hardly registered my words. In her thoughts, the battle was already concluded, and victory was hers. Observe? I was certain you would grasp it. This decision is ultimately for your benefit, Nathan. She strode away, the sharp sound of her heels echoing against the floor, radiating a confidence born from the conviction that she had executed her strategy flawlessly. She forged ahead, unflinching, without a glance to see if I might object. There was no necessity for her to do so. She believed she had unraveled the enigma that was me. Yet in just a matter of days, that smirk would be erased from her face permanently. Vanessa had always taken great pride in her belief that she was the most intelligent individual present. She reveled in the sensation of mastery, of being perpetually one step ahead of the game. After presenting me with those divorce papers, she simply walked away, showing no interest in my response. She believed I had succumbed to defeat, that I would merely become another cliché ex-husband, penning a check as she stepped into her vibrant, new existence. I allowed her to hold on to that belief, and witnessing her radiance was nearly as gratifying as the anticipation of what lay ahead. 2 days later, Vanessa radiated a remarkable glow. She glided through the house with a sense of lightness and liberation, reminiscent of a woman who had just secured the most advantageous financial choice of her existence. It was evident in her demeanor, in the subtle, contented smile she believed went unnoticed by me. She made no effort to conceal it. Vanessa consistently sought the reassurance of her closest companion, Jessica. Whenever Vanessa sought reassurance about her choices, Jessica was ever present, ready to uplift her spirits. 2 days after they handed me the papers, I found myself eavesdropping on their conversation, and it was no surprise at all. Vanessa reclined on the couch, her fingers gliding over the screen of her iPad as she perused an array of luxurious apartment listings, spaces she had yet to finance, yet confidently believed would be within her grasp. I ought to have taken this step earlier. Jessica, she said, exhaling as if freed from an immense weight. I truly believe I've been squandering my best years alongside Nathan. I savored a sip of my coffee, remaining silent, attuned to the sounds around me. Though Jessica's voice came through the speaker in a muted fashion, I could easily conjure the essence of her tone in my mind. Uplifting, validating, providing Vanessa with precisely the words she longed to hear. No, the attorney asserted that it's unassailable. Vanessa pressed on, turning the page to the next listing, her voice laced with a sense of triumph. I shall find myself quite at ease. She halted, a smile playing on her lips. Truly, I have earned this. Worthy of recognition. She believed she was entitled to claim half of what I had labored for. I nearly succumbed to laughter, yet I restrained myself. She had yet to peruse the prenup. Vanessa wasn't merely envisioning my finances. She was already behaving as if they were hers. Throughout that week, I observed her utterly forsaking any semblance of restraint. She ceased her culinary endeavors at home, opting to order takeout each evening. Exquisite sushi, premium steaks, $25 artisanal smoothies, every expense effortlessly placed on her own card, without a moment's hesitation. Then arrived the journey. A weekend in Miami with her friends, complete with first-class flights and a luxury hotel, all expenses settled ahead of time. Shopping sprees ensued, adorned with designer handbags, elegant boutique dresses, and exquisite jewelry. She adorned herself like a trophy wife devoid of a husband, striding through the house with a self-satisfied confidence that only someone convinced of having landed an effortless windfall could possess. And I allowed her to proceed. I reclined, observing her as she indulged in expenditures beyond her means, fully aware that once she scrutinized the fine print, the opulent life she envisioned would dissipate like smoke. On the eve of her meeting with the lawyer, we found ourselves seated across from one another at the dinner table. As she scrolled through her phone, an air of tranquility enveloped her, a gentle smile dancing at the edges of her lips. Every so often, she would let out a satisfied sigh, reminiscent of a person who had just clinched the opportunity of a lifetime. At last, she lifted her gaze to meet mine and offered a sly smirk. I truly hope that we can maintain our friendship after everything that has transpired. I placed my fork aside and locked eyes with her, presenting a courteous smile. Undoubtedly, she appeared quite satisfied, as though she were navigating the entire situation with poise, embodying the essence of a magnanimous spirit. She lifted her wine glass, allowing the rich liquid to linger on her palate, relishing the tranquility of the moment. With a nonchalance that nearly sparked my admiration for her self-assurance, she remarked, I understand this might be difficult for you, but I genuinely believe this is the best course for both of us. With a soft sigh, she placed her glass down with care. And I promise, she added, as though bestowing upon me a profound grace, I won't make things messy. I merely nodded, suppressing a smirk of my own, for she remained blissfully unaware. She believed she was being magnanimous, convinced that she was presenting me with a simple escape. Unbeknownst to her, within a mere 24 hours, she would find herself pleading for another opportunity. Vanessa entered her lawyer's office the following day, brimming with confidence and a sense of triumph. Vanessa had devoted her morning to shopping, reveling in yet another spree as if she were already embracing the life of a woman destined for financial independence. A fresh handbag, a stunning pair of designer heels, a delicate gold necklace she likely envisioned adorning herself with while enjoying cocktails on a sun-soaked getaway. All thanks to my bank account. To crown the moment, she indulged in a $20 matcha latte, savoring each sip with the contentment of one who felt on the brink of achieving the simplest windfall of their existence. In her thoughts, she had long since left me behind. She likely believed that once this meeting concluded, I would fade from her thoughts, surfacing only on the first of each month when the alimony check found its way to her hands. Yet as she delved into the fine print, the very foundation of her existence crumbled beneath her. Vanessa lounged in her chair, her legs crossed with a nonchalant grace as she flicked through her phone, her attention drifting far from the conversation with her lawyer. She exuded an air of unwavering confidence, just as she always did when she believed she held the advantage. The attorney, a distinguished gentleman with meticulously styled gray hair and a tailored suit, perused the documents with care. He cleared his throat, gazing at her with a blend of professionalism and subtle worry. We have initiated the divorce proceedings, yet Vanessa, you failed to mention the existence of a prenup. A copy of the prenup has been sent by your husband's lawyer. Have you truly taken the time to read this prenup? She scarcely lifted her gaze from the screen, offering a nonchalant wave of her hand. Ah, I glanced over it when we tied the knot. It's merely the customary affair, isn't it? He carefully adjusted his glasses, letting out a slow, measured breath. Not quite. He angled the document in her direction, his finger gently tapping a paragraph nestled near the bottom. He mentioned Clause 14b. Should the petitioner commence divorce proceedings without just cause, they forfeit their entitlement to alimony and marital assets, save for any joint property previously agreed upon. Vanessa's eyelids fluttered momentarily. With a soft chuckle, she leaned in closer. Excuse me, could you clarify what that means? The attorney let out a weary sigh and placed his pen gently on the desk. What this signifies, Vanessa, is that if you are the one deciding to terminate the marriage for your own personal reasons, which you are, you will not be entitled to alimony, and you will not receive a portion of Nathan's assets. And now the moment has slipped away, forever beyond reach. I conversed with his attorney, who declined our request to withdraw the divorce petition. And now, according to the terms of the prenup, you shall depart with what rightfully belongs to you, and nothing more. Her smile became a statue, unmoving and cold. It was a vision that danced vividly in my mind. Her mind raced, grappling with the weight of what she had just heard, seeking to make sense of it, to uncover some flaw, some angle to bend the story back to her advantage. As the truth dawned on her, she seized the papers from his desk, her fingers racing over the pages, desperately searching the contract as if she wished to find a mistake in her reading. Hold on, that's not right. That is not the case. Her voice rose in pitch, tinged with urgency. I was meant to. Her lawyer cast a compassionate glance her way, intertwining his fingers thoughtfully. This document bears the weight of legal endorsement, Vanessa. Should you decide to contest it in court, the outcome will likely not be in your favor. It is completely sealed. Vanessa's breath caught in her throat. After weeks of numbness, a long-forgotten sensation washed over her, stirring emotions she thought had faded away. Fear grips the heart. Her hands quivered ever so slightly as she clutched the papers, her impeccably manicured nails pressing into the edges. Absolutely not. Negative. This situation lacks fairness. She faltered, her head shaking in disbelief. For years I have held the title of his wife. I offered him my time, my energy. The lawyer raised a hand, interrupting her mid-sentence. His voice carried a steady strength, unwavering yet calm. He remarked that the court would perceive it as a mutual partnership rather than a financial obligation on his part. Vanessa's hands quivered as she extended them toward her phone, her impeccably manicured nails tapping softly against the screen. Her breath came in quick, uneven gasps, while her thoughts raced like wild horses. I must call Nathan, she stammered. With a weary sigh, her lawyer, embodying professionalism, adjusted his glasses. I strongly advise against it, he said, his voice steady yet resolute. No, she whispered, her head shaking slowly. He He could never bring himself to do this to me. He simply would not. Yet I had indeed accomplished just that. In that moment, just before her lawyer's gaze, she began to unravel. What are her plans for the luxury apartment? Departed, a luxurious getaway for her first-class girls' trip to Miami? Not a chance. Her dream of a life filled with leisurely cocktails at my expense. Fragmented. What could possibly be more disheartening? She had yet to reach the depths of despair. As I sat at my desk, the sudden buzz of my phone broke the monotony of the day. Vanessa. I simply remained seated, observing it as it rang. After allowing it to slip into voicemail, I perused the transcript of her message. Nathan, we must have a conversation. It seems there has been an error. Please return my call at your earliest convenience. An error? Alas, Vanessa, your decision has been made. Now you must embrace it. She possessed a remarkable talent for navigating her way out of difficult situations with words. A touch of allure in one place, a sprinkle of feigned sorrow in another. She possessed an uncanny ability to manipulate others, skillfully bending circumstances to suit her desires. She believed that if she wept sufficiently, pleaded earnestly, or portrayed herself as the victim with just the right nuance, she might be able to change the course of events. Yet for the very first time in her existence, there was no one arriving to rescue her. The initial voicemail carried a sense of calm, yet it was laced with urgency. The second one? Not particularly. Nathan, I am uncertain about the nature of the game you believe you are engaging in, yet it is imperative that we address this matter. You can't simply sever our connection like this. Please return my call. I allowed it to ring once more. At last, the third voicemail arrived. This time her voice trembled. Nathan, if you would be so kind. I believe I may have made a mistake. Please return my call, if you would be so kind. The realization was finally dawning. The future she had once envisioned with such smug confidence now vanished. The dream of elevating her existence, subsisting on my resources, advancing without repercussions, lifeless from the outset. In that moment, she found herself awakening to the truth unfolding before her eyes. That evening, while I was pouring myself a drink, a message from my lawyer arrived on my phone. The attorney representing Vanessa made contact. She seeks to revisit the terms of the agreement. I take it your response remains negative? A sly smile crept across my face as I crafted my reply. Indeed, here's the crux of the matter. This was not open to discussion. She affixed her signature to the contract. She initiated the proceedings for the dissolution of their marriage. She believed she held the reins of her destiny. And now, as the truth dawned upon her, she understood that she was not. She believed she could simply reverse her actions. Absolutely not. The next awakening for Vanessa was not heralded by my voice. It emerged from her network of acquaintances. When she initially chose to end our marriage, she boasted to her friends about how she was on the brink of securing her financial future for good. For weeks, she crafted an image of herself as the astute, self-sufficient woman who was elevating her status, embarking on a journey toward greater and more promising horizons. She basked in the spotlight, absorbing the accolades and affirmation. Yet at that moment, she found herself in a flurry of activity, and in an instant, those very friends seemed to waver in their support. Jessica, her most ardent supporter, the one who had always been her loudest cheerleader, suddenly ceased responding to messages. The women who had raised their glasses to her new chapter, too occupied to gather. The man she had been playfully engaging with prior to the divorce vanished without a trace. For no one desires to linger near a vessel that is destined to go under. And Vanessa found herself submerged, gasping for air. It transpired 2 days later. A gentle rap upon my door. Before I even cast my gaze, I was already aware of their identity. I opened the door to discover Vanessa standing there, a stark contrast to the self-assured woman who had once presented me with divorce papers, her expression laced with a smug smirk. Nothing extravagant in attire, imperfect hair. There was no trace of arrogance in her gaze. A woman consumed by despair grapples with the weight of her recent losses. Her breath trembled with uncertainty, her fingers intertwined in a tense, anxious embrace. Nathan, if you would be so kind. May we engage in a conversation? I stood by the doorframe, arms folded, enveloped in silence, anticipating. She inhaled deeply, her breath wavering with uncertainty. I, I wasn't in the right frame of mind, all right? I, a misstep was taken. I arched an eyebrow. An error? Indeed. She nodded with urgency, her throat constricting as she swallowed. I found myself ensnared in the whirlwind of it all. I allowed my feelings to dominate my thoughts. Yet we find ourselves at a crossroads where this path is not a necessity. This can be resolved. It feels like we've shared so many moments together and I interrupted her with a soft, amused laugh. Vanessa, it seems you don't hold love for me. Your affection is drawn to what I can offer, and now that it has slipped away, you find yourself filled with regret. Her lip quivered. No, that isn't the case. I gently shook my head. Your decision has already been made. Her breath caught in her throat, her voice trembling. Nathan, if you would be so kind. I, I find myself without a destination. I inclined my head gradually, locking my gaze with hers. Indeed, I am aware. Then I shut the door right in front of her and secured it tightly. Vanessa once believed she was invincible. She believed she could walk away from me, seize my wealth, and elevate her existence without a moment's hesitation. She was convinced that she had unraveled the mysteries of life, her destiny, her wealth, her independence. Yet now, in that moment, she found herself without a home, devoid of funds, and utterly lost as to what her next step should be. For the very first time in her existence, she found herself without a safety net. The morning following my abrupt dismissal of her, my phone erupted with a flurry of messages from our shared acquaintances. It seems that Vanessa experienced a complete breakdown at a cafe. She had been venting passionately to Jessica, who, from what I gathered, appeared profoundly uneasy about how I was unkind, callous, and destroying her existence. She reached out to her parents, likely hoping for a measure of compassion, but was met with the stark response, "Sort it out on your own." With tears streaming down her face, she burst out, overwhelmed by the crushing realization that not a single soul stood with her. For years, she had donned the facade of superiority, as if she were elevated above all others. What comes next? She found herself at an unprecedented low. As the night deepened, my phone vibrated once more. A concluding message. Nathan, I find myself at a loss for words. I apologize. Could we have a conversation, please? For a brief moment, I found myself gazing at the screen. In a moment of whimsy, I decided to respond. Of course. Let us rendezvous at the Grand Hotel lobby, precisely at 8 in the evening. Her reply came in mere seconds. My sincere gratitude to you. I shall be present. She likely believed this was her opportunity for redemption. I found myself becoming more tender. That if her tears fell in the perfect rhythm, if her pleas were woven with just the right amount of desperation, she might mend what was broken. Is that so? I merely wished to witness her come to the understanding that there was nothing remaining to salvage. Upon my arrival at the hotel, a full 10 minutes ahead of schedule, I settled into a seat in the lounge. The venue exuded elegance, alive with the presence of impeccably dressed attendees, as the fragrance of luxurious cologne and blooming flowers wafted through the atmosphere. I placed my order for a drink, settled into my seat, and awaited its arrival. At precisely 7:58 p.m., the doors to the Grand Hotel lobby swung open with a dramatic flourish, and there she stood. Vanessa endeavored to regain her composure. With fresh makeup adorning her face, a new dress flowing elegantly around her, and heels that clicked against the marble floor, she moved as if she were still someone of significance. Yet I was able to perceive it. Her shoulders drooped, a silent testament to the weight she carried. The delicate shadows beneath her eyes persisted, despite the careful application of concealer. The tension in her expression, as if she were struggling to draw in each breath. She caught sight of me and rushed over with purpose. In that fleeting moment, a glimmer of her former self emerged as she attempted to conjure a smile. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me, Nathan. Her voice carried a gentle timbre, wavering with uncertainty. I reclined in my chair, utterly at ease, my fingers idly tapping on the smooth surface of the table. Of course, I replied. She paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. It was evident that she was unfamiliar with this side of me. Serene, detached. She likely anticipated feelings of anger, a touch of bitterness, perhaps even a glimmer of hope. Instead, I found myself engulfed in a sense of ennui. Vanessa inhaled deeply, steadying her resolve. She leaned in just a bit, her voice tinged with an effortful earnestness. Listen, I acknowledge that I erred, all right? I believed I desired a change, yet I've come to understand that my thinking was misguided. Her gaze sought mine with an urgent intensity. We shared a bond, Nathan, one that felt right and true. We have the potential to find harmony once more. I inclined my head, observing her intently. Do you truly hold that belief? She nodded swiftly, a glimmer of relief passing over her features, as hope began to take root in her expression. Indeed, indeed. I understand that I've caused you pain, yet we need not continue down this path. The money holds no significance for me. My desire is simply to mend what is broken. For a fleeting moment, I found myself simply observing her, observed the manner in which she intertwined her fingers, as if in a moment of devotion. I observed the subtle quiver of her lower lip, the way she inclined toward me, as though bridging the gap between us might alter my response. In that quiet moment, I delved into my pocket, retrieved a neatly folded document, and gently pushed it across the table. With a slight furrow of her brow, Vanessa hesitated, a flicker of confusion crossing her face, before she reached down to pick it up. With a slight tremor in her hands, she carefully unfolded the papers, her gaze sweeping over the words. Her breath hitched. She raised her gaze to meet mine, her complexion draining of color. Is this truly the end? A sly smile crept across my face as I tilted my drink ever so slightly in my hand. Indeed, affixed with signature and seal. It would have been wise to arrive at the court accompanied by your lawyer. Her lips parted, then sealed tightly as if she were battling the urge to cry. Yet, we were meant to discuss. I released a soft chuckle, shaking my head in disbelief. Vanessa, this was never a matter for discussion. Once words and arrows are released, they cannot return to the air from which they were launched. Her eyes brimmed with tears, genuine, heartfelt tears. The woman who had once regarded me with an air of smug confidence as she delivered the divorce papers now appeared diminished, adrift, and filled with panic. And there it is, she murmured softly. I rose to my feet, smoothing my jacket, savoring the moment, allowing the silence to linger in the air between us. With a final glance, I seized my keys and turned away. That is all. She blinked quickly, her lips parting as if she sought to object, to contend, to discover one final perspective to leverage. A sly smile crept across my face. Did you seek out a thrill, perhaps? I waved my hand toward the magnificent hotel enveloping us, the lively city beyond, the expansive world she had yearned to discover in my absence. Relish the experience. Indeed, I have not settled the bill for this coffee, as it was your desire to meet with me. The responsibility lies with you. Settle the bill. Yet I have never settled the bill during our outings. I smiled and remarked, there is always a first time. In silence, I pivoted and strode away, abandoning her in that moment, utterly shattered. Vanessa had always held the conviction that her words could weave a path back to any lost opportunity. A tumultuous romance, an extravagant getaway, a gentleman's purse. She believed that if she wept sufficiently, pleaded earnestly, or portrayed herself as the victim with just the right nuance, she might be able to alter the course of events. Yet for the very first time in her existence, there was no one to hear her voice. 2 days following our encounter at the hotel, my phone vibrated with a sudden alert. Vanessa. It was tempting to overlook it, yet my curiosity proved too compelling to resist. The message unfolded before me. It stretched on, far beyond what was necessary. Nathan, I find myself at a loss for words. I deeply apologize. Your absence lingers in my thoughts, longing for the days when we were together. Since that night, I found myself in a state of disarray. I understand that I may not be worthy of another opportunity, yet I implore you, I simply wish to speak with you one final time. I simply must hear your voice. I perused it once, then again, only to ultimately erase it. Silence lingers, absence echoes, and resolution remains elusive. She was unworthy of such a thing. She had her moment to speak, every opportunity to make the right choice, every chance to select us. Yet she discarded me as if I were merely a tedious chapter in her story. At last, she found peace in that decision. A month slipped by, and I had entirely moved on. My life belonged to me once more, and I was resolute in my decision to forgo any further moments steeped in regret. Once again, I found myself in the gym, exerting every ounce of energy, journeying to new places, sharing laughter, cherishing moments with friends, and relishing the tranquility that came from no longer waking up next to someone who deemed me insignificant. One evening, I found myself at a rooftop bar, surrounded by colleagues. Beneath us, the city lights sprawled like a tapestry, the air crisp and invigorating, while the music wove a gentle hum in the background. Engaged in a lively exchange, drink in hand, I suddenly found my attention drawn to something, or perhaps someone, intriguing. Vanessa. She sat alone at a table, a half-empty cocktail resting before her. She appeared transformed, not in a manner that suggests novelty or enhancement, but rather in a way that feels as though life has thoroughly chewed me up and unceremoniously spat me out. There are no designer clothes. There is no radiant complexion to be found from lavish spa treatments. There is no easy assurance. A woman who, at last, came to understand the extent of her own self-destruction. In that fleeting moment, she glanced upward, our gazes intertwined, and I perceived it. The acknowledgement, the deep-seated regret, the heart-wrenching acknowledgement that she had irrevocably lost me. Her lips parted slightly, as if she were on the verge of speaking, yet I chose not to wait. I merely averted my gaze, chose not to recognize her presence, offered no further consideration, and withheld everything. And that was the true retribution. Because Vanessa experienced more than just a financial loss. She forfeited the existence that might have been hers. What about me? I was engrossed in the art of living to pay any mind. Esteemed listeners, we invite you to express your reflections in the comments section below. Additionally, we encourage you to like, share, and subscribe to stay connected.